everybody. My name is Emma Hampton. I am currently the Assistant Director for the Historical Society. And as Donna has told you guys, Christopher has resigned. He was actually supposed to be the speaker tonight. Judge Smith was his favorite, so he knew a lot more about Judge Smith than I do. So I threw together a presentation. We're going to see how it goes. It might not be the best one I've ever done. I do want to open it up at the end to Kirk Smith and to Ken Snyder and anybody else that knows anything else on Judge Smith, just because you guys might have more fun stories or more information than I do. So we're going to start. Okay. So Judge Smith, he was born in 1882 and passed in 1964. So he was born April 25th, 1882, near West Point to Thomas and Kate Smith. He had two brothers, Claude and Sidney. He obtained his education through the local public schools and through his neighbor, who was really involved in his education. He would then go on to attend the University of California to study law. He would then marry Idelle Parsons in 1911. He would teach at schools around the county for about 40 months before he went on to do, I believe, the bar for his lawyer stuff. So I have a couple of photos. One of them is their house in San Andreas. And then there is another photo of Judge Smith and Idelle in front of a house. I don't know if it's the one in San Andreas or if it's one up here. And then we have a lovely portrait of Idelle at the very top. He was a clamper, a Mason, a Boy Scout, a Native Son, and a charter member of the San Andreas Progressives Club, so he did a lot. He was very involved in the community. He would pass away in 1964 at the age of 81. I did include at least one of his cases that he did. Unfortunately, he presided over a lot of really not great cases that I wanted to share with you guys. It was a lot of domestic violence and murders and not great. But I went through our collection and I chose the best pictures that we had. All right, and his career, he served as the deputy county clerk for many, many years. He was instrumental into the formation of one of the county high schools. He was admitted to the bar in 1909. And in 1917, he was appointed the Superior Court judge for Calaveras by Governor Johnson. So the older photo I have up there, that's in front of the Hall of Records, our current downtown museum. And if you can see the little arrow, he's he's like fifth in the front. Very, very young photo of him. And himself in the judge's chambers, I believe. And then one of his trial, one of the cases he presided over. He would go on to serve 40 years on the bench, and through his entire life, he was very interested in history. He also loved photography, and because of him, we have a huge collection of his photographs of places all around the county that he took in an effort to preserve all of them. Because a lot of them at the time when he was taking these in the 30s, there were some buildings that were already deteriorated and as of now gone. So his collection is the way that we've been able to keep those historic buildings at least present. He would continue to operate his family ranch up here in West Point. In fact, actually, I believe the house is just right around the corner. If you can get the right angle, you can see it from the highway. He would retire in 1957. And during this time, he is also the founder of the Historical Society. So in 1952, he helped organize the Historical Society. He was also our first president. He became our president and deemed Mr. Calaveras. He did a lot for the society besides just founding it. He wrote a lot of news articles because prior to the founding of our society, really none of Calaveras' history was written down. It was all pretty much just through oral stories and just kind of passed down generations through generations. So he was one of the first ones that was like, no, we're going to write this down and all of this. So he spearheaded that, and he did that through his articles that he would write for the newspaper called The Early Days of Calaveras. And we have pretty much all of his scrapbooks that have all of his stories and his all the clippings from that. We also have all of the earlier Las Calaverases that he wrote for. So he did a whole bunch of different articles on different areas in the county, and they're all online too if you guys want to check them out. So he wrote The Early Days of Calaveras in the newspaper. His photo collection with all the buildings and sites were done. We do have his camera and his gun and all of his certificates in the museum. Pretty much just talked about this, but so one of the photos we have him speaking at a historical society meeting in Mountain Ranch. And then the other one is at the 1964 dedication monument of the last robbery. And that robbery was basically a gunman shot from the side of the road in the bushes at a stagecoach, killed 2 people, one of them being a 17-year-old, and the man was never found. So that was the last stagecoach robbery in Calaveras, and so that's him at the dedication of that. I believe Lois Domingini was at that one too. We have several photos of that monument being set. Okay, and then what is a historical society, since he's the one that founded it? So it's a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to collecting, preserving, interpreting, and promoting the history of a particular place. They are a crucial role in promoting the historical awareness by providing a platform for research, education, and public engagement. With our collections, we get those mostly from donations from everybody that's lived here that wants to donate. We typically get artifacts, photographs, documents, that kind of stuff. We do have a little bit of audio and video, but not as much as the physical objects. These are super vital for research that we get from the public and also for our personal collections that we can get to share with you guys. We also conduct research for the public, so we'll have research requests come in, and it's just people most of the time interested about their family or if their property has a mine on it. But because of everything that you guys donate and all the stories we get and everything, we're able to help them with that. We also assist in preserving buildings and archives, artifacts, and other items pertaining to the county. One way that we do that is through our collection and maintaining all of the things that you guys donate through the different means to make sure that they're not going to deteriorate. And we also do community outreach. This is something that we need to do a little bit more of because we need to get younger members, and that's about where we're at with it. So we have different programs that we're going to start doing to get more members. And then I included, because his collection is so huge, I just wanted to throw in some of the highlights for you guys. So I don't know how well you guys can read the scribbles on the bottom, but the very top left is the Milton Depot. In the middle on the top is the old Masonic Hall in Campo Seco. The top right is the old Congregational Church in San Andreas before they had to tear it down. At the bottom left, that is the Double Springs Courthouse. That is the first courthouse in Calaveras County and currently upstairs in our museum. The middle on the bottom is the ruins of the Agostini store in Old Gulch. The bottom right is the old cabin east of Telegraph City. The top left, that is just a photo he took of a miner showing how to use a sluice box. The middle-ish is the Leger. Then we also have Railroad Flat, and then my favorite one was the gentleman here in San Andreas. They are entertaining the legislator to promote the Motherlode Highway. So they all got dressed up and decided to, I guess, parade around just to promote, we want to put a highway through here. The middle on the bottom, that is Mountain Ranch. And then The bottom right, that is Happy Valley. I don't know if that building is still there, but. All right. And then I've got the Oberyn's Ferry Schoolhouse on the top left. That one's in south-ish of Copper. The middle is the site of Chili Camp, which was west of Campo Seco. And then the top right, I don't have a description on it, but that is the ruins of the old brewery in Moke Hill. The bottom left, that's the Ramaji building in Albany Flat, the one that unfortunately the roof has caved in now, and surprisingly looks a little bit worse than it does in the photo. The middle one, that is our favorite or iconic one. That is in front of the Hall of Records in the courthouse on Main Street, San Andreas. And then the bottom right, that is the old horse racetrack in San Andreas that used to be at the site of the old airport. That I don't know what's there now, but. All right, and then a little bit about the photos in West Point. He took quite a bit, obviously, because he lived here. And I don't have really any direction on the top row. It just looks like a before and after of something burnt down, or that's Main Street. Thanks, C. So the top row, that was all Main Street. The bottom right here, that is, the end of Pine Street, or the east side of Pine Street. The corner is, I believe, the old grocery store that was Main and Pine Street. And then the bottom left was, I believe, that same building, just from a different angle. So, yeah, unfortunately, that's all that I had time to prepare for. So I'm gonna open the floor to Kirk Smith or Ken Snyder, whoever wants to go first. We'll do Kirk.
In the upper right there is essentially the remains of town after there was a terrible fire in 1933. A gentleman was, in those days, there's probably about 5 or 6 bars in town. You know, and bars are very popular. And they wouldn't serve them anymore. So he went out back and basically burned down all that side of town. Burned the entire town down on that side. And so what you see is he took a picture probably in around 1933 of what was remaining there. And if you see the one with the donkey, the second one in on this side, again, you see those big brick walls? Well, that was actually a hotel and sporting hall that was built. And they used to have fights there and contests and all kinds of stuff. And all that, and very popular on Main Street, and completely gutted by that fire, by the drunk. And in more detail, that's actually the judge standing in front of the ruins, because when he did this tour to take all these photos, he had a couple of guys go with him, and one guy was in charge of taking pictures. And so there's this beautiful collection that was in his stuff, and we have the Harpers to thank for making it available. And they're right there. So that little house on the lower left corner is still standing 100 feet from here, and the judge was born in it. It's 100 feet, just right over here on the corner. It's vacant today, but that's what he was born in, and so was my grandfather was born in it. The one in the middle was the very first store built in 1854 by an Italian that was over at Rich Gulch, and noticed that there was quite a few miners congregating in this area, and he came over and built the first store, and they were able to get water off of what's called Bear Creek up here, and that stood until 1956, and I was sitting on my uncle's porch, and a guy ran up and he said, they just tore it down. And they found in the wall a Texas Rangers badge and and his gear. Well, I don't know what happened to the gear and all that good stuff, but it was kind of a good story for a kid, you know. At any rate, I actually knew the judge pretty well but I was a kid, you know, so it's from that perspective, you know. We would come up and they would do dinners all the time, the brothers at each other's houses and things like that, because they tried to stay connected. And so he would take me from his house over to the courthouse and sit me down and, here, try that chair there. You know, you could be a lawyer. What's that, you know? I get to sit in a chair? Wow, that's exciting. So, but at any rate, there's no question the guy really did dedicate his life to, you know, the community. And that was his life, is connecting to the people that he served. And he was just good at it, you know. He really knew how to put people at ease, and he was able to accomplish a lot. Some of the other things that she didn't mention was that he was always the guy that when we had wars, like World War I, well, he was in charge of the recruiting committee to put a group of soldiers together to go off and serve the country. And he was in charge of World War II's campaign locally for soldier recruitment and everything. So he was always kind of had his finger in different things, and there's no question that local hospital was kind of something he got interested in, the high school. So he was always trying to bring people together. Well, that kind of guy is a pretty valuable guy when you think about it, that he brought people together and they accomplished things, you know. And, you know, I think we could all kind of celebrate that, you know. So I had just come back from being in Switzerland for a couple of years. When I came up here in just real early ~64, he passed away a couple weeks later. And then I came back up and I met with my aunt, Idell, a couple months later. But then she passed shortly after that. So they both passed away real close to each other. He was so connected to San Andreas that he wanted to be buried there instead of at West Point with his brothers. So there is, if you go up to the cemetery that's not far from his business, down there in San Andreas, and I've gone up there and put flowers out and things like that, but you stand there at his grave and you're looking right at his courthouse. So interesting, huh? At any rate, great guy. It was really, really good to us kids, and he was really good to the Long family, of which the Harpers are descendants of, and nice to celebrate good people from the past. Thank you.
Well, I lived next door to Judge Smith. He lived below us on the right, and above us was Benny and Doris Earhart and Georgie and Leila Long, and they were related to Judge Smith. And I used to cut lawns for him and pull weeds and do chores and all kinds of stuff with manual stuff. In those days, we didn't have weed eaters or anything like that. He was a really good guy. I have a picture here of the old barber shop in town, and I have his shaving mug. It's got his name on it, J.A. Smith, and everybody kept their mugs there, and they would go in and get a shave every day, and they'd use their mug for it. And I also brought a book it's called The Tales of Old Calaveras by Coke Wood, and Coke was pretty good friends with Judge Smith, and it says, with appreciation for your assistance in compiling this book, Judge Smith, signed Coke Wood. Underneath it, it says, given to Ben by Judge Smith, year 1940. So he had passed it on to Benny Earhart. And one cute thing I can tell you about, every morning he would go from his house up our driveway and Earhart's driveway to behind our house. They had a big garden that he would take care of every morning. And every morning he would go up there. And on the way up, I don't know if he was coughing or sneezing, but he'd do it 4 or 5 times on the way up, and it was like, rush, rush, rush. That's what he would say. anyway, he was really a good guy, and I got along good with him at their home and did a lot of things, and they were really great people. And I brought a few tokens from Railroad Flat and West Point if you want to see them. Anyway, thank you.